Welcome anime fans and the anime curious to Where There's a Weave There's a Way, a podcast series in which a seasoned otaku and a newbie attempt to put together an anime canon. We're going to be taking a look at some of the most influential shows and films, along with some modern curiosities, to help break a newcomer into the medium. We're your hosts, Chris and Grace. Welcome back, listeners, to Where There's a Weeb, There's a Way. And this week we're going to be donning on our school uniforms, grabbing our school bags and our pencils and our rulers, and this bit's gone on for way too long now. And we're going to go to UA Academy to learn how to become superheroes, where we explore seasons 1 and 2 of My Hero Academia.
Figured we will talk about the later seasons at a later date, but we thought that seasons 1 and 2 would be like a good introduction to this world of superheroes, so that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so like we were thinking for like a future episode, you know, we could do an episode about season 3, an episode about season 4, and our thoughts about the movies, because My Hero is one that I've been aware of for years. I actually watched season 1 when it first kind of came out several years ago, and I remember watching the first season and thinking at the time, oh my god, this is going to be massive, it's going to be huge, and it has become that. My Hero Academia is, without a doubt, probably the biggest shonen series going on at the moment. It's easily one of the most popular, and it's really, really, really easy to see why. You know, it's a perfect combination of that perfect nexus point, I think, of superhero Western audience with the Japanese anime aesthetic. And I remember thinking several years ago when the first season came out that, oh my god, this has got so much potential for crossover. You know, coming out at the height of, you know, the MCU, and just when anime was starting to get really quite popular on streaming services, you know, My Hero Academia kind of came out at just that kind of perfect point. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this one in particular with Grace, because going off of Full Metal Alchemist, I realised that we hadn't really had like what I would class to be a traditional shonen series. Full Metal Alchemist is, while it was published in a shonen magazine and is often characterised as a shonen series, I think it's a bit atypical. I don't think it really like represents shonen as a genre quite as well as effectively as like your Naruto's or your Bleach's or your One Piece's. Now the problem with that, and in Grace's anime education, is that it's almost impossible to break into a series like One Piece now, for example, and that's something we're going to address in the next episode, so you'll have to keep an eye out for that. One Piece, there's like 1,000 chapters, there's hundreds of episodes. Naruto, similar problem, where there's lots of filler, there's lots of stuff that isn't necessarily important to watch. Bleach just completely goes off the deep end, but I'm not going to talk about Bleach. I'm emotionally not ready to talk about Bleach just yet. But
too soon.
It's too soon, and the series ended about like 10 years ago. Even then, it's too soon to talk about Bleach. So yeah, so it kind of presents a problem where like I kind of want. I mean, something like Dragon Ball Z, for example, I don't think it necessarily up Grace's alley necessarily, even though it's a series I grew up with. It was my first shonen series. So I said it presented a bit of a problem of like, well, I want to show a traditional shonen series, so she gets an idea of the beats of what normally happens in a shonen series, and My Hero Academia perfectly suits that bill. I remember I hadn't watched much anime for a while when I watched My Hero Academia, and when I came to it and my friend introduced it to me, he was like, yeah, it's an ongoing series. I'm like, okay, but it's a season. He's like, no, they're going to do multiple seasons. And I was like, oh my god, that's like the best thing that could ever happen for shonen anime in general, is basically splitting up the series, as splitting up into seasons and not doing the continuous one episode a week kind of thing, which doomed so many shonen animes in the past. Naruto, One Piece and Bleach, all any shonen series, or pretty much any series that's adapting an ongoing manga, ran into the problem of they're going to catch up to the manga at some point, and because of the model that they used to have, they would just crank out filler, or they would just extend the plot lines of the seasons out into ridiculous lengths, to the point where it lost so much of like the gravity, basically. So when I learned that My Hero Academia was going to be adapting the manga but doing a season by season basis, I was excited. I was like, okay, that's really cool. We're going to keep a high quality control. They're going to keep it consistent. The animation's not going to suffer, and they're going to be able to tell a really, really tight story. To the point now where like I want every single classic shonen series to be redone in like a season by season thing, like My Hero. I actually would love that, because I think it's just a great way to get people into the series. So as such, we've went for My Hero Academia season 1 and 2 as our next series, because as I said, it's that perfect balance of traditional shonen storytelling with a bit more of a modern sensibility and much more modern production approach, which I think works in its favour massively.
And I, to be honest, liked the look of this one because it's about a bunch of cute kids. So, I like that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's easy to see why, because like My Hero's got such like a great like cast of characters, and they're all colourful, they're all interesting. Obviously, famously, it's basically set in a world where 80% of the population has developed a superhero power of some kind, which in this world is called a quirk. A quirk can be anything from, shooting a little bit of water out of your finger to being able to kind of, manipulate gravity or
make objects fly around.
Yeah. So they're not necessarily they don't have to be like impressive or anything, but most of the world has developed a quirk of some kind, or has a quirk of some kind, which really lends itself to kind of the wider again that a problem I have in some shonen where my mind thinks about things a little bit too much, and it's like how the powers work. I tend to prefer the more simple explanations of stuff. So my only problem with Full Metal Alchemist is reconciling in my head how how the powers that they use can become the things that they do become, while in something like Dragon Ball, for example, it's just ki. And that's all that it is. And that's what I kind of like about My Hero. It's just people of quirks. I think that just gives you a really broad canvas then to kind of do what you want with it.
And I think it's an unusual, kind of an unusual approach to doing like a superhero-y type thing. Like, like in X-Men, the mutants they're not like the norm. They are kind of the minority, I guess. And they really play that up in a lot of the X-Men films. But I think it's an interesting way to flip the script and have actually people without a superpower being really rare, and it kind of being this kind of weird thing. Definitely. Yeah, it gives it like a huge appeal, and like I think like the effect that's had on the world, I think is really interesting. Like how it's changed like law and politics and education, and like what would like a big change to the physical makeup of the world make. And My Hero, it doesn't really focus on it too much. It kind of just has it as like in the background, because at the forefront it is about school kids learning to control their quirks at this academy for heroes. So a little bit about My Hero Academia. It began life, of course, in the annals of Shonen Jump,
which if I could have $1 for every single time I'm going to say that over the course of this podcast, I'm probably going to be quite rich. So it began as a manga series in 2014, still going to this day, but I think with hints that it's going to be kind of reaching its climax soon. Written and illustrated by Kohei Horikoshi, and in the Japanese it's called Boku no Hero Academia. So it's been going on for chapters upon chapters. The anime started in 2016 and is actually animated by our returning friends Bones, who animated both the Full Metal Alchemist TV shows. And when I kind of came back to watching the series, I didn't know that when I watched it initially. And having come off watching Full Metal Alchemist and Brotherhood back to back, I was really excited to see these guys get a go at doing like a long running series like My Hero. You know, I think it's a real testament to them that they've made it as good as it has been. I think the Bones effect is huge to the success of the anime. So the anime is currently up to season 5. Season 5 is airing as of this recording, but we're just going to be talking about seasons 1 and 2 today, where we're just going to talk about what we like about it, elements of the show which we think are worth noting, and why it's also a really, really good introductory piece. It's part of that canon that we keep on kind of talking about over the course of this series, where we explore seminal anime, important anime, and I do generally think My Hero is
a modern classic.
It is a bit of a modern classic, yeah, and I think all the popularity is just deserved. It's so easy to see why the show is as big as it is, why people like it the way that they do. And but today, we're going to talk about seasons 1 and 2, and then in future episodes, which I don't think will necessarily follow the same format we're talking about right now, but we'll kind of give our thoughts on the later seasons and movies as we kind of go along. Alright, so Grace, do you want to introduce the basic setup of the story?
Okay, yeah, so this show is about a little boy called, I'm going to butcher this, Izuku Midoriya.
Izuku Midoriya.
Izuku Midoriya. Number 1 hero, all might, 本物だ生だとやっぱり画風が全然違う He is in this world of people having quirks. He is actually quirkless, which he really wants more than anything to be a superhero like his idol, All Might, who's like the number 1 ranked superhero in the world.
I guess he's almost like the Superman of this world, basically.
Yeah.
Only he's better than Superman.
I agree. But yeah, so, everyone kind of doubts and that he's going to be able to do that because he's quirkless, he's got nothing special about him. But that all changes when he meets All Might in person. All Might actually saves him from a villain. He gets a chance to enroll in hero school.
Yeah, so this is like a mild spoiler, but kind of it happens in the first or second episode, I think.
Yeah.
So it's part of the setup. But if you want to go completely blind, I don't know, maybe fast forward a couple minutes or something. But Izuku basically finds out that All Might's powers are diminishing. And the actual...
he got in an accident, I think, or he was stabbed and...
some villain attacked him or something.
And he had to have, really intense surgery, so he can actually now only keep up his powers 3 hours a day, and when he's not doing that, he's like a skinny... it's almost like a balloon deflating. It's pretty funny how he goes from being this really ripped, buff guy to... skinny guy whose clothes are hanging off him.
Yeah, it's very good. So All Might's looking for a successor to his power because it is diminishing the amount of time he can spend in this kind of Superman form, and he chooses Izuku.
Because his power can actually be passed, it's called One for All, and the kind of point of it is it can be passed on to somebody else by basically having them consume a part of your DNA.
And so basically it follows as All Might is training Izuku to kind of become the heir apparent to the All Might name, basically. And part of that is becoming enrolled at UA, which is for high school. And so a huge part of the first season is, I think the first season does a great job at kind of setting the world up and setting up what makes Izuku tick. like why we like him as a character, because he's great. He's definitely one of my all-time favourite shonen protagonists, and we'll get onto that in a bit more detail in a bit. And then yeah, so like part of it, of the first season, I said, is seeing him kind of go from kind of this kind of almost like self-loathing kind of character and kind of like becoming more confident in himself when he enrolls at the school, and then he starts being a pupil there and going through all the trials and tribulations, because the power that's now imbuing him is it's too powerful for his little body. You know, like he messes himself up whenever he tries to use the power, and it really messes him up in a really bad way. You know, so like his body gets injured and stuff.
Yeah, he's always breaking bones because he punched somebody. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah. So then the first season then kind of climaxes with an attack on the pupils, and yeah. But my only problem with season 1 is that like it does such a great job of setting everything up. I mean, by the time you kind of get comfy, the season ends.
Yeah, and I think season 1 is a lot shorter than season 2, isn't it?
Yeah,
to my memory. Yeah, so you're like, oh, it's just getting cooking, and then it's over.
Yeah, so like you weren't like me, but back in the day where I was like, okay, I was really just getting into this show, but I'll have to wait for season 2, and then obviously subsequently I didn't watch season 2. Fortunately, now there's a whole 26 episodes of season 2 readily available on whatever anime streaming service that you use. So I almost view season 1 and 2 as kind of being kind of the same, really, because it does pick up directly. Well, no, they all pick up directly after. But you know what I mean? But I almost view them as kind of being one of the same kind of thing. If you want to get a full picture of My Hero, I would say watch like the first two seasons, and it gives you a really good flavour of what this show is going to be about, effectively.
Yeah, so with that in mind, should we talk about some of the characters in My Hero?
Yeah, sure, yeah. So we talked about Izuku Midori in some detail. His superhero name is Deku, which
means useless.
Which means useless, but then through some like pronunciation of Japanese words in a slightly different order, which I didn't quite fully get on my first watch, it means something else as well. I can't remember, but it's pretty cool. So Deku uses something that he used to be bullied with and turns it into like a superhero name, which I think is pretty cool.
It's pretty cool, and he's really sweet. He's really likable.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Really like a nice kid.
Yeah. No, I mean, what I like about Izuku, I guess we'll get onto it. Why I think he is one of Shonen Jump's best protagonists is that the strive to become great is so much more felt. I think I think I've talked about it with Grace of the Past, but I think you can chart a course between the Shonen Jump protagonists of like the 80s, like your Joseph Joestars in the first part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, up to like Goku in Dragon Ball, where they're kind of like they're almost dumb in a way. Like they're so single-minded, like in their striving to become better. Don't get me wrong, both characters go through trials and tribulations. Jojo's dog gets burned to death.
Oh my god!
But that's a whole thing that we'll talk about when we get to Jojo's Bizarre Adventure. But yeah, like but they're ultimately not like intelligent protagonists, which is fine. But
they're himbos.
The himbos, basically, yeah. But then that kind of became like the standard for a long time for shonen protagonists to kind of be dumb but likable because of like their kind of singular goal sort of thing, the thing that they're kind of striving for. Which is fine, because that led to, some of, the protagonists of some of my favourite series is, like Luffy in One Piece, for example. He's an idiot. Like, he just goes in blindly into, whatever situation he's in, but he's constantly defined by his loyalty to his friends, his nakama, and his goal of becoming the king of the pirates, which is fine for One Piece. But then in other series, which don't use it as effectively, it started becoming a little bit stale. Yeah, so then you kind of had characters kind of like Naruto and Ichigo Kurosawa from Bleach, where they were more like emotionally complex characters, I would argue, than kind of what came before in Shonen Jump, but they were still kind of like defined slightly by that single-minded, dumb naivete, which kind of defined Shonen Jump protagonists for a long, long time. That's why I kind of like Deku so much, is that like he is the ultimate. He's almost like the third evolution of that shonen protagonist, where he has his motive, he has his goal of being. He doesn't. I don't think necessarily he wants to become like the best hero. He just wants to become the best him.
Yeah, he wants to help people.
He wants to help people, and he wants to be accepted. He wants to have friends, and ultimately, him becoming All Might and living up to his destinies, I guess, is almost like secondary. Like he wants to basically find his own self-worth, which is, I think, for me, the ultimate evolution of the shonen protagonist, where, you know, you've gone from the himbos of JoJo and Dragon Ball via the kind of more emotionally complicated but still pretty himbo-y Bleach protagonists and Naruto protagonists, and then Deku is the ultimate evolution of that, where, as I said, he's got his goal, which he's striving for, which is so much of what a shonen protagonist needs to have, but then he's also kind of got the kind of a more emotional complexity to him. So I'm extremely fond of him. I think he's great. Like he's a definite protagonist for like a 21st century shonen series. His striving is incredibly relatable, and yeah, he is great. I love Deku. He's definitely one of my favourite characters that we've encountered so far on this journey.
Yeah, I also love Deku.
So yeah, I realised I kind of took the shade there to talk about my ranting about shonen protagonists, but but yeah. So he's, you know, what is a hero without his sidekicks or his friends? Because in sidekick, being called a sidekick is a bit of an insult in the world of My Hero Academia. Yeah. But he's joined by a whole cavalcade of characters who support him along the way. I guess we'll talk about his friends first, and then we'll talk about his mentor figures, I guess. But he's got a great it's a great group, you know. So his class is a class 1A, and there's loads of different sorts of characters with lots of cool different powers and lots of different abilities. But immediately he befriends a couple of people. There's Tenure Leader, who can run really fast. He's like the class rep. Bravo! Uranaka-kun! Bravo! Bravo! He's ultra serious, but incredibly loyal and dedicated, and he's great.
He's great. I think he's one of my favourite characters in this show.
Yeah.
He's really, I find really funny. He's really like, is the word officious?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, he's really just like, really on it, and, you know, doing things right and doing things by the book and following the rules, but he's not like a stick in the mud. He's still manages to be like really, really funny and likable.
Yeah, he's just the right balance, I think, of that sort of character.
He gets some really interesting development in season 2, I think, which we can maybe talk about in more depth later.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And then he also has like a girl friend. Maybe they'll become boyfriend girlfriend in a future season. I don't know, but we seem to be setting up that there's going to be romance between these two. There's Ochika Uraraka. ヒーローになってお金稼いで父ちゃん母ちゃんに楽させてあげるんだ Who has the ability to basically, she can touch things and she can like remove gravity from them, like 0G, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, she can do this to people too, which has some fun results.
And yeah, again, like, you know, I probably maybe appreciate this maybe like a little bit more than you when it comes to like traditional shonen series, but I really, really appreciate that she isn't like your typical third supporting character who tends to be female. You've probably heard a lot about, or through cultural osmosis, you probably heard a lot about Sakura in Naruto.
Yeah, I've heard people aren't a big fan of her.
Sakura's annoying in that, like, she is I actually kind of love Sakura, like, in early Naruto. She's a great character.
But she gets done dirty.
Yeah. And, like, she loses a lot of her agency, which I don't like. But so far, they're doing a really good job. She's basically like Sakura done right. You know, she is a bit more supportive, and she says that's what her ultimate goal wants to be, but she's got lots of great things that she does in the series. You know, she's so much more than the Sakura support character.
Something I really like is, and this is at the start of season 2, I think, Deku and Lida ask her why she, in particular, wanted to become a hero, and she actually says that it's for money, and it's because she actually wants to help out her family, you know, who are, you know, I think they have a building company that they're struggling with a bit, and so she quite, you know, says it is for money, but that isn't framed as like a moral failing, and it is shown to be that there is a good reason why somebody might want to do this for money. And I think very often in media, the idea of admitting that you want to do something for money is such a big no, but like, no, there are valid reasons, you know, we need it to survive, so... Yeah.
And like, I think like in the context of this world it makes sense as well, like, you know, again, it's something that like I think a lot of like Western superhero stuff kind of shies away from, And like, if there is a hero who does things for money or works for someone, they're framed as not being as moral as the heroes who do things independently. If that makes sense. So yeah, no. So I think that element of it is really great, and she's just great. She's just a really fun character. Like.
I love also in season 2 she works for a while with a professional hero who teaches her how to basically how to fight like close combat, and it's pretty funny. You know, getting to see her apply this. You know, like. You know, she's such a sweet, innocent-looking girl, and then she can just, like, pin people down in, like, 3 moves.
Yeah. Which, that kind of pays off a bit in Season 3 as well.
Yeah, which we have started watching, and it's great so far, but we won't talk about
it. We won't talk about it here, yeah. So then kind of there's lots of then, also in Class 1A, and then kind of Class 1B as well, which is now being introduced a little bit more in Season 2, but we're just going to concentrate on 1A, I think. There's lots of other great supporting characters. Again, one of the things that I love about shonen series is if you manage to balance the huge cast of characters right, it can be so fun and rewarding, while if you don't, it can be a disaster. Like, which was what I was kind of worried about with My Hero Academia, when I could see, because I call it the Bleach problem, where the second big arc of Bleach, Rescue Rookie, is a classic example of a shonen series biting off more than it can chew, where the second big arc is so iconic and so good, but it expands the world in a huge way, and it's just always great and interesting characters, and the world becomes so much larger. But then the issue then becomes, I can't balance all these characters. So My Hero started introducing the class of 1A, the eventual class of 1B, and all the teachers, and all that. I was a little bit worried, a little bit concerned, but they managed to find a way of doing it, and I really like that, where, you know, nearly every single class member, you know, they have a moment for you to remember them, or they do something cool, or they have an interesting power. There's all little moments for them to shine, which I like. So, I mean, yeah, just to mention a few, there's fan favourite Todoroki.
Oh yeah.
Who is who, you know, again, I remember watching season 1 with no interest, or not interest, but I didn't know about the manga or kind of a fandom at that point. And I remember seeing that character, you know, Todoroki, whose power is he can control ice and fire. And I was thinking he is going to become the fan favourite. And I was right. He's quite Zuko-esque.
Yeah. He's one of my favourites too. And I, you know, confession time, I have a soft spot for angry, damaged teenage boys with, like, daddy issues or mummy issues sometimes. So, of course, I really like Todoroki. You know, he's got this, you know, really interesting backstory with his, like, really quite abusive dad. And
but one thing I like about Todoroki as well is that, like, you know, he's set up to kind of, in the second season, he's kind of set up to kind of be like a rival to Deku. But then that diminishes really quickly. They actually don't focus on that too much, which again surprised me. Because again, I always go to Naruto as I don't know why, but I always go to Naruto as a shonen series. Yeah, I'm very fond of Naruto. You know, I'll always like it, but it's got problems. You know, like when Todoroki showed up, I was a bit like, okay, this could be this series is equivalent to Gaara, you know. But I like how fairly quickly Todoroki comes around, and Deku's just trying to help him.
Yeah, it's because Deku's so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like he just wants to help him out, you know, and I like that a lot. By contrast, there's another angry character called Bakugo, who's great. I love Bakugo.
Yeah. I'm not normally into, like, the angry, hot-headed character, but Bakugo's great. He is like a childhood friend of Deku, who's clearly harbouring secret romantic feelings for Deku. Just needs to express them. Like, he is so mean to Deku, especially in the first season. I didn't think I would get to liking him, but I slowly have come round to enjoying his character.
Yeah. Like, I think season 2 does a lot of that there, where, like, you know, like he constantly puts Deku down, and then as Deku starts going on his journey of self-worth, you know, Bakugo's insults just become more and more pathetic, to the point where the class are just like,
What's your problem?
What's this guy's deal? Like, I like that. You know?
Yeah, and we talked about that before, that, like, you know, in maybe a less well-written show, Deku and Bakugo would go to the school, and everyone would be on Bakugo's side because he's like the bully and he's he's more powerful, and Deku would have to like prove himself to the class. But actually no, people in the class just generally like Deku for Deku because he's a nice person, and everyone kind of is a bit like, this Bakuga kid is slightly unhinged.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah. I like that a lot as well. Where people in the class just like Deku for being Deku, but it doesn't go through that typical arc of what's he doing here kind of thing. There's a little bit of that at first, when we're doing like the first test on the first day of school, but fairly quickly people come round to liking him. But it's kind of the way I think most kids interact, where there's a bit of awkwardness at first, and then they get to know each other. Bakugo's great. He's also called Kachan. He's great. I laugh every time he's on screen.
Yeah. I don't think we mentioned his powers, but basically he makes things explode.
Yes.
He's an explosion person.
He loves the fighting and all that. He's great. He's wonderful. Then there's a bunch of other characters in the class as well,
who are less focused on, but still. I know. From what I kind of see on the internet, everyone has their favourites, and often it's a character maybe you wouldn't really notice, but somebody else did, and I think that's really cool when that happens. That there's everybody's got their own ones that they zero in on. I personally really like Sue.
I like Sue. I think most people like Sue. Yeah.
She's like a little frog girl. She's got a long tongue, like a frog tongue, and she jumps like a frog. And she's looks a bit weird, and she talks quite weird, but she's really cute. It's a really cute in just slightly an odd weird way.
Yeah, and there's a great episode in season 2 where they kind of go on their internships, and she gets to she gets put on I don't know, with a superhero navy, I guess.
Yeah,
and, that's a really cute episode where you get focused on her a lot. I like her a lot as well. I liked her the minute she turns up towards the end of season 1. I was like, oh yeah, this is a cool character. There's also the guy with a berry on his head who everybody seems to hate.
Oh yeah, Minato.
Minato, but I kind of like him. He's he's there for a reason. He's there to try and get in a bit of that shonen fan service. But I like how the show, and I suppose by extent the manga, I don't know what the manga does, but always comes down on him for his perverted ways.
Yeah, he usually ends up being punished for, in various ways for being, such a little pervert.
You'll get a bit of fan service, but the series then will always come down on him or punish him in some way for his perverted ways. And his power's a bit rubbish as well. To the point where I constantly question how the hell this guy got into UA.
Yeah.
Which is meant to be for the best kind of thing.
Yeah, Deku almost didn't, but this kid did.
This kid got through, apparently.
Yeah.
There's also, was it Momo, who's got the power of creation?
Yeah,
she's pretty cool.
She's cool. I really like her hair. I also think she's a really nice arc in season 2 in particular. She kind of starts off as seeming quite confident and put together, and she gets her confidence knocked a lot towards the beginning of the second season, and she's obviously become quite unsure of herself. But then towards the end of the season, she gets put in a position where she has to make decisions and trust her own decisions, and it's really nice to see her, things work out for her and her regain the confidence she lost.
Yeah. This next character is purely for aesthetic reasons, but I've gone blank on the character's name, but I call him Crowboy.
Fumikaji Tokoyami.
Tokoyami,
I definitely pronounced that wrong, but hey.
So like in this world, it seems like people can take attributes of like animals as well. Like, and it's not really explained. Like, maybe we'll get an explanation one day because like the head teacher of the school is like a hamster or a gerbil. I'm not entirely sure. So like maybe that's just a thing in this world. But I think that I forgot his name already. The crow boy. I think he's Tokoyami. Yeah, he's got such a cool quirk, and like he can barely control it. And then like it's,
you should probably explain what it is. It's a
it's like a dark shadow.
It's like a shadow of him.
It's like a shadow of him,
and it gets out of control in darkness. You know, sometimes to the point of he can't control it, and people are in danger.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of powers of like where the power of a hero has the potential to like overwhelm them. Like if you don't balance things right, like it can like easily consume them. I'm trying to think of some I guess like the Hulk. I guess.
Yeah.
Well, like if Bruce Banner can't control like the Hulk properly, the Hulk can like be incredibly destructive. I think this character's quirk is similar to that, and I think it's really cool. So yeah, as I said, the extended cast is just littered with all these wonderful little characters who just fill up the show in a really satisfying way. I'm a big fan of the character in Class 1B who continually tries to find faults in the characters of Class 1A. You know, the blonde-haired kid.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, look, Class 1A is in trouble again. I thought they were the best. And he's there just to like make snide comments. I like him. I like the inventor girl from like the.
Oh yeah, she's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, she's like a random character who's from like I guess like the service class.
Yeah,
like,
so there are actually different courses at this school. Some of them are more like about being sidekicks, and then some of them are like more like inventing stuff to help heroes do their heroing. And she's from that. That's
kind of what she does, yeah. So I like that a lot. So, yeah, so I mean, crikey, I don't think we'll be talking about characters. This is probably the longest time I've ever spent talking about characters, and we've only just talked about the children characters.
Yeah, we do have some teachers, actually, to talk about too.
So here to fill up the boots of, again, another character who I thought of instantly. This series is Kakashi. We have Eraserhead, who is the homeroom we call them homeroom teachers. You have a homeroom teacher at Class 1A who's called he's called Eraserhead.
個性を消した見たとこ個性が制御できないんだろ
He's got a really cool quirk where, like, just by looking at someone, he can erase their quirk temporarily until he blinks next. So, of course, his eyes are constantly bloodshot.
Yeah.
And it also makes him the perfect person in the world to be a teacher in a superhero school because he wants to shut up the class or get them to sit down. He can just, like, erase their quirks. And he's cool. Like,
he also like basically lives in a sleeping bag.
Yeah,
and he is just really tired, looking all the time, and just kind of like you know how it is, like Monday morning mood. That's him, like all the time.
It's like him all the time. Yeah, he's really great. Yeah, I took a shine to him there straight away. And yeah, like the other teachers, I don't think they've kind of been given like a massive amount of time yet, but they're kind of there as kind of like they're kind of the supporting figures. I really, really, really want to know what the deal is with the hamster head teacher.
The hamster head teacher,
What is that character like? What's his deal?
I think they talked a bit about him and how I think he actually is a hamster.
They had like experiments done him or something.
And he became smarter than humans.
Yeah, there's a really fun arc like towards the end of season 2 where as part of like their midterm exam they basically have to go up against the teachers.
Yeah,
and try and do like a sort of like a game kind of thing, and that kind of shows off the teachers' quirks a little bit more, which is really cool. But yeah, so then the big last character to talk about is All Might.
緑谷少年がいた
オールマイトどうしたんですか
ご飯一緒に食べよう
Who is, as I said, he's the world's number one hero. He's the Superman of this world. And in my professional opinion, is a much better and more interesting character than Superman. Mm-hmm. People can come at me all they want, but I like Superman, but he's a bit of a boring character. Like, he's pretty much invincible. He's only weak to this one thing. How can you fix Superman as a character? And the answer is simple. Superman can only be Superman for a certain amount of time of the day. Now, I don't know how much of a day All Might could be All Might before the accident, but I suspect it probably was still a set amount of time, because the quirks do seem to have like a set amount of time you can use them before you get too tired, or you feel physically ill, or you get dizzy, or there's a really fun character in Class 1A who can shoot lasers from his navel, but every time he does, he throws up. So I think there's like a set amount of time you can use the quirk unless you're like you're really, really skilled with it. But yeah, the problem with fixing Superman is, just have it where Superman can only be Superman for a certain time of the day. He's got a timer, which is brilliant. And that's what All Might managed to do, and I think he intentionally evokes Superman, because like he, so lots of his moves are called like Delaware Punch, and like he name drops American cities and stuff, and so I think the comparison's meant to be clear.
Yeah, I think even his colour scheme is a little bit
American.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, but again, it's that iconography making it recognisable to like a Western audience, which again I think makes it nice and clear about why I think there's been that crossover appeal, because instantly you can look at All Might and think they're doing a bit of a riff on Superman here. But as I said, in my opinion, he is a much more interesting character than Superman. He's got a cool backstory.
And I like he's kind of like a dad, a teen dad as well. Like he's especially towards Deku. And I really like that. He's doing his best with these kids, and
I like how he calls like every kid as well, like Midoriya Shonen or like Momo Shoujo. Like young. What the subtitles translate as like young Midoriya, young Momo, and like I like that. About that familiarity, a dad quality. Everyone looks up to him. He's got a lot to live up to, but I said his time is limited, which again adds that real push and pull to the character. So wonderful, brilliant, genius, like just spot on the mark, like just. What a brilliant idea, That must have been the eureka moment, I think, for the mangaka of this series. I mean, is there any other characters?
I guess we could talk about like the main kind of villain that we've seen so far.
Yeah, so but the villain's machinations kind of happening in the background quite a lot. They're starting to come to a front a bit more now in season 3, but in season 1 climaxes with them going to like almost like a hall basically where heroes can practice in like disaster situations.
Yeah.
So like earthquakes, sinking ships, and they go there basically to learn how to do like disaster training, I guess. But the training's interrupted by a group of villains, self-styled as the League of Villains, and I have a great respect for any group who can call themselves something as brazen as that. I think it's awesome. And there's like this weird guy with
hands on his face,
and his power is he can destroy things, decay things basically.
Yeah,
which is cool. And then there's this kind of like shadowy guy who can make like warp gates. And then there's like this huge, enormous creature which is basically like a match for All Might. And their goal is basically to tear down the concept of heroes and the way society holds up heroes as kind of being like this perfect thing. So their long-term goal is to kind of basically destroy All Might and everything that he stands for, which has developed a lot more definitely kind of towards the end of season 2 and is kind of getting into season 3 a bit now. But again, I like the long-term nature of this guy, with the main villain who is called Tenko Shimura. And like he's got a cool design, and he's obviously working with some like shadowy puppet master in the background, which is starting to come out a little bit in again towards the end of season 2 into season 3.
Yeah, I think my favourite thing about him, this is almost like a minor spoiler, but it turns out that hand on his face, it doesn't always have to be there. Like he, at the end of season 2, he kind of shows up and confronts Deku at a mall, and I guess he's taken the hand off his face to be a bit more like blend in a bit with like just normal shoppers, but like he chooses to keep it on his face, which is it's
an interesting choice.
Yeah,
and maybe we'll get an explanation one day on what the deal with that is.
Well, maybe he just does it for the aesthetic. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's a cool aesthetic. It's definitely memorable. Season 2 also introduces a villain called Stain, who is a hero killer who's got a really cool quirk where if he tastes the blood of someone, he can paralyze them temporarily, which I think is really nasty.
Yeah.
And like again, what I really like about this show is that like it's really not afraid to go to some pretty dark places. Like it is honestly like it's for such a a superhero school where kids go with it, learn how to become superheroes. It's really dark. Like it's relentless to these poor kids.
Yeah.
Like
like, can't they have a normal school term?
Like I started this off as a bit of a joke just to be contrarian, but now I'm being serious now. My Hero Academia is better than Harry Potter because it actually gets into the consequences of like running a school like this
And having kids be in danger so much.
having kids be in danger so much and having them in mortal peril basically, and having like but season 3 gets into it a little bit more, but like the ramifications of running a school like this, I think is really cool. It's a bit different, and like it gets into that quite a bit, in particular like with the Stain character, and then later on with kind of what happens at the end of season 2 going into season 3, which I think is awesome. Like it's some of that. It took a basilisk that can travel anywhere in the school with the best killing technique ever, where it can paralyze a student, and then worse yet, it's got some sort of like racial motivation, like some sort of
It's bigoted.
It's bigoted motivation. It took that to maybe borderline close Hogwarts. But yeah, it's not looking too good for UA at the moment based on what we've seen so far. So Stain's really cool, very memorable. Really good antagonist for him to go up against in season 2.
Yeah.
So just oh my god, like we talked about characters for about nearly like 45 minutes, I think.
Yeah, well, I do think that is a strength of this show in particular, is its cast, like its big cast of characters. But I guess it would be a good time to talk about some of the arcs that we particularly enjoyed.
Okay, yep. So like obviously season 1, you've got your introductory arc setting up Deku. Your second big arc, I guess, is the kind of the disaster centre, which ends season 1. Season 2 then opens up with a tournament arc, which I was very excited about because I love me a good tournament arc. And then the next big one then is probably then the Stain stuff.
Yeah.
And then
I guess is it too spoilery if we talk in a bit more detail about the Stain stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the Stain stuff is spoilery.
All right, we'll have a little spoiler section then maybe.
Yeah, we'll have a spoiler section here, I think. Yeah, and then the arc after that is basically them going up against the teachers, and then going into the kind of the midterm exams basically, and then going into the final into the final bit of season 2, going into season 3. So immediately, I was a huge fan of the tournament arc.
Same, actually.
I love, again, this is why I was delighted that My Hero Academia had a tournament arc, because they're such a staple of classic shonen. Pretty much every single one has one, and they usually tend to be my favourites, because they're such a great ground for, introducing characters, showing off the powers, understanding the backstory, all that good stuff that comes with a good tournament arc. And I would say that My Hero is definitely one of the best ones, because it just expands the world in such a satisfying way. So I love that arc.
Yeah, me too. I also really enjoyed the Stain arc.
Yeah, the Stain arc was good, where basically there is a hero killer on the loose, and to make matters worse, Stain attacks Leader's older brother, who is like basically Leader's from like a family legacy of this type of hero.
Yeah.
So he attacks and paralyzes Leader's older brother.
Yeah, and so of course that sends Leader kind of into like a revenge mission.
Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah, they're kind of like doing work experience, and he specifically goes somewhere where this happened, and where he knows Stain is operating, because he's hoping to like track him down and get revenge.
Yep. So
so that's a really, really fun arc. Stain's really cool, and it's great when Deku and Todoroki get involved in this.
Yeah.
I also really like the midterm exams.
So pretty much anything season 2 related is like the best arc.
Yeah. The midterm exams are really fun though. Like I think you really get to see what these characters can do and see them kind of using their like brains a lot to come up with solutions to fight their teachers.
Yeah, because like I often think that like the best shonen fights, which again is why I love JoJo's Bizarre Adventure so much, in particular Stardust Crusaders, is that the battles in that kind of move past just being brawly men beating the crap out of each other. They become like puzzles that they have to solve. You know, there's like a wonderful stand battle, for example, where there's like a microscopic thing which goes into one of the characters' brains and stuff, and we have to work out a way of stopping it. Basically, it's awesome. But yeah, like I like anything where like it's a bit different to just who's the most powerful. You know, who can win in a fight, basically. So all that's great. Yeah, all the arcs are satisfying. They're all interesting. There's not one that kind of I felt a bit bored through. You know, they're all interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, I mean, crikey, we talked about My Hero for way longer than I expected. So, I mean, is there anything else you want to add before we kind of get on to like our rankings of stuff?
No, I think that's it.
Yeah, all right, cool. So so I guess before we get on to what we think about each of the openings, like we normally do, I guess we'll give our overall thoughts on My Hero Academia. Mm-hmm. So like if you've not watched this show, like just get on it. Like even if you are not massively interested in anime, and even if you're not really massively into superhero stuff, like My Hero does such a good job at making that concept feel fresh. You know, I'm someone who went to go see every single Marvel film in the cinema. I was there for the whole ride, and I came out of Endgame like a bit burned out, but like, you know, it's done. That was satisfying. I never want to watch another Marvel film ever again now. But My Hero is such a fresh spin on the concept where like it reignited a lot of love I have and the potential of the genre. And doing it in a medium which I love dearly, it makes it even more exciting. You know, I think it's a huge part of the reason why I think, you know, anime is having, almost like it's probably its biggest ever period, I think, where, you know, people are watching shows more, streaming services have helped, and My Hero I do genuinely think is a huge part of the success of that, and it deserves everything it deserves. It's a quality show with great characters, great writing. It's everything you could want really from just a show in general, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. It's really fun. I like a big cast of characters like that, and you know, it's just a really enjoyable time. All
right, cool. So towards the end of the show, we do a couple rankings where we first of all rank the openings. Okay, so we got 3 openings in season 1 and 2 that we're going to talk about. So starting from our least favourite, which for me is the first opening of season 2, which is Peace Sign by Kenshi Yonezu. It's okay.
Yeah.
The song's decent, but the opening is, pretty disappointingly static. It's a bit of a shame really, because both the other 2 openings I think are so animated and so entertaining to watch. But this one can't help but feel a bit like static in comparison, even if the song's good.
Yeah, I agree. I would also put this at the bottom. It is a pretty good song, but I think it lacks the energy of definitely the best anime openings. There's a lot of just the characters like stretching, and you know, and I think it picks up a bit when you kind of see a bit more of them like fighting. But it's bottom of the list for me.
Yeah. But then after that, I would go with the second opening of season 2, which is Sora ni Utaiba by Amazarashi.
I agree. I would also put that one in the middle.
This one is a great song, and the opening's really good. It does a really neat job of summarising the story in like lots of visual ways, which I like. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's not quite as good as I guess our first joint one.
Yeah.
Our number one, which is The Day by Porno Graffiti, which just rocks. It's awesome.
Yeah, the visuals are great. The song is fantastic.
Yeah, it does such a good job at, setting up the world, and there's lots of subtle little things in there, and it's just really entertaining. And it honestly gets you pumped to watch the show.
Yeah.
Like, you just want to hope your quirk manifests so you can show it off to someone after listening to that song.
Yeah.
It's really great. It's really good. And yeah, so that was pretty easy.
Yeah. So I guess the next thing to talk about is where we would rank this within our list.
Our list so far, yeah. So this is our, sixth show that we talked about?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, right, okay. So
at number 6, I'm going to put Death Note. And then from there, Gurren Lagann. Gurren Lagann. Lagann, because I've been saying that wrong for a while. And I think, you know what, it's hard. So obviously this is based on just these first 2 seasons, and it might change depending on how much I like seasons 3, 4, and 5. But at the moment, I think I would put My Hero Academia here. So I guess in 4th place. And then I would Snafu and Full Metal Alchemist 03 and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Okay, and then my ranking then would be, so Death Note at number 6, not much change there, I don't think it'll ever change. Then I would put Full Metal Alchemist 03, followed by Gurren Lagann. And then at my new number 3, I would put My Hero Academia. Maybe it'll get a bit higher, don't know, we'll just see. Then Brotherhood, and Snafu, which is my number 1 favourite at the moment. Right, well, that's it for this week's episode. It's a terribly exciting time at the There's a Way headquarters. We changed our setup a little bit for this episode. We now have 2 mics. So hopefully you've noticed a bit of an audio improvement, because I was editing them, I was getting frustrated at how I sounded, so I was thinking I'm going to have to sort this out. We also are now starting to get, the first episode of Time of Recording should be up now, which is our Death Note episode. So you'll probably hear this 10 weeks down the line, but it's now up on Apple Podcasts, and it should be available by this point. By the time you're hearing this, it should be available on most of the major streaming services, because you'll have picked it on your favourite one. But I'm still psyched about it because it feels really fresh and new. And lots of things have been coming together. Like, we've got the thumbnail sorted, which is cool.
Yeah, we should say that was drawn by
Waffle Caramel Creations, who are on Etsy.
Yeah, give them a look up. They were really good.
They were really good. Yeah, they did commission really well. So at some point in the future, we'll do a follow-up episode to this one where we'll talk about My Hero Academia Season 3 in a bit more depth. But next time, we're going to go to the movies.
We're going to change it up a bit.
We'll change it up a little bit, because there's so many wonderful anime movies that I feel like any education wouldn't be complete without at least watching. Well, you got to watch them in tandem with the TV shows. So a bit of an odd one, admittedly, but one that kind of paid off in dividends, I think. The first movie we're going to watch is one of the One Piece films, which kind of serves as Grace's introduction to the world of One Piece, but it's also just, I think, a really solid film as well, which is Baron Omatsuri and the Secret Island. Mm-hmm. And then following that, probably the next episode after that will be Akira, which is like one of the big gateway animes for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So lots going on, lots of exciting times. So thanks for joining, and see you in the future.
Oh, also you can follow us on Twitter now.
Yes, our handle is @theirweeb, which I don't know why Twitter they decided to make that our handle, but there you go. @theirweeb is our handle. So make sure you follow us on there and subscribe and rate and do whatever you do on podcasts, share, whatever else that people do. Mm-hmm. So join us next time.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Where There's a Weeb, There's a Way. If you enjoyed this show, please make sure to like, rate and subscribe to us. You can also follow us on Twitter @theirweeb. And we'll see you again 2 weeks from now.